2015 when they first started accruing those wins.
This is a year of new beginnings, I want to say, for a lot of teams in this World Cup. And I think it's very important after the grand finals matchup to, sort of look over what this year means for OWC 2026, because this happens every single year, which means that these countries need to constantly think about how do we make our roster the best it can possibly be for next year's OWC. And I have loved every single minute of this tournament this year for one reason alone. It's because so many countries have amazing rosters to go into next year with. People are talking about right now, Poland has won. They had a great year and all of that. What people aren't talking about is that Poland has a very young, very fresh roster. Rafis aside, who is Methuselah. But other than that, I think he still even is going to continue playing the game. And Poland, with a roster that could come back next year and win the OWC World Cup yet again. They have a strong roster. They have a young player base who is going to want and come back and get a repeat win in this tournament. Likewise with the United States, they switched out a lot of their older roster this year, and I imagine we're going to see a lot more sub-outs for next year. That could potentially mean that we see a completely different roster from them. And there are more countries that we didn't even see in this grand finals that fill that spot. Australia, they've been vying for that top 2 spot for years. And if there was ever a year we thought they could have done it, it was this year. And they came short on one map on an underperformance on TV, and I still think that they could have done it, which means that their prospects for 2026 are as good as ever. And more teams on top of that. We saw Canada with a fully refreshed roster this year, who did get knocked out in an earlier stage, but they made it farther than I imagined they were expecting to make it, with a roster that was as fresh as they had. Germany completely made a switch up this year. South Korea lost a lot of strong players, but they still made it all the way through to the semifinals weekend. And there's a whole host of teams like New Zealand who cannot be understated this year. They had a miracle run, and I cannot say that it was luck. They had the best all-round team performance of the entire tournament in my mind, aside from our winners, Poland. They look so good as an overall roster, and I cannot wait to see what they bring to the 2026 World Cup too. And there is just so much more that we can look forward to in just a year's time.
I am very much looking forward to next year as well. Australia this year took the US to tiebreaker as well in the losers bracket grand finals. And they look to repeat with a similar roster for next year as well, right? I know there's quite a few Australia and Australia-New Zealand tournaments that help to foster talent in that region. So looking forward to seeing what their roster is going to look like next year as well. Poland, as you said, I mean, the big elephant in the room is that South Korea, they had multiple players quit, right? They are the defending world champions, actually, and they were out in the top 6 this year, but they had multiple of their best players either quit or, as is so often the case with South Korean gaming players and esports players, military obligations, right? So it kind of interrupts the careers in OWC. This is not League of Legends, right? None of these players are literally Faker, and they don't just get exemptions for it just to keep playing OWC year after year. So
a lot of Faker candidates, though.
A lot of Faker candidates, but not quite the case here at OWC, unfortunately. So for teams and countries that don't have that obligate service, you can look forward to similar teams next year, hopefully, for multiple of those who have challenged the United States this year.
I think for me, there's one thing I want to mention about this. Having been here for so many years now, there's been this narrative for the longest time that the USA always wins, they got plot armor, they're just too strong. I think a lot of people are always kind of looking down when they do good. I think it's a common thing that we all have to deal with every time, but I think that narrative can be put to rest now, I think. I mean, that's 2 years in a row now where someone managed to outdo them. So I think it's a very interesting change in landscape. Like you said, Chili, you're kind of the start of a new era here with this one, where honestly, going forward, there's so many things that could happen. A lot of very new faces, a lot of very, fresh players that have just some crazy potential, some returning players too that just keep getting better and better, right? So I'm very, very curious for the future landscape of OS World Cup after today. But it is nice to see Poland be able to take it back, though. I think it's something to be happy about. I think this was a generational team for them to be able to assemble everyone on 1 year here after a couple of their players kind of took a back seat or didn't play or didn't really have a full roster around them. Well, now they do, and they prove that they can do it.
This is a new era of OWC, as I think that we've boiled this down to. We brought back the group stage. We removed the round of 32, so I mean we really backtracked to 2018 this year, by the way. That was the last time we had group stage and round of 32 gone, but
that's why they won.
Yeah, there it is. Well, funny enough, the last time we had a group stage and a round of 32, Poland lost in groups, so damn, what a turnaround for Poland this year. But good things to be said all time, and there's a lot of statistics that we could go over that we're not going to go over because they are really freaking boring. But the United States, fun fact, have never lost a point in a group stage ever, and that maintained through to this year. Poland have never lost a grand finals to the United States, continued through to this year. Unfortunately enough for Poland, as much as I'd like to say it, they did not become our third team ever to have an undefeated run in the OS World Cup. But man, they came so close. That first set was just very, very rough for them, but they displayed the excellence that we expected of them in that bracket reset, more than we ever could have asked for. I mean, a 7-3 victory is as good as you'd ever like to see in a grand finals, and such a good time from them. It's always a pleasure to see this Polish roster play. All of these players are absolutely stellar at what they do and have been for so long. And of course, I don't want to overstate Malashevsky, but to win as many tournaments as he has and not have an OWC first place badge is just so sad. And I pray for teams like Australia that they also maybe have that chance one day, to all of the best players in the world to have the chance to win this tournament one day, because all of our top level players deserve it. I think everyone should get the chance to compete on this stage, and we always wish that we could get more players up here on the stage, on stream every single year. And, it was a lot of the motivation, I think, behind bringing back group stage this year, to get more and more teams up here and have a chance to play on a world stage like this. It's always great to see.
It is fantastic to see. And unfortunately, because it's unfortunate because it's that fantastic, but this is the end of the OS World Cup 2025. We've had our tiebreaker show match, we've had our grand finals, we've had our bracket resets, and Poland, once again, are your OWC 2025 champions. They have brought a second year in a row of loss to the United States. They have claimed victory themselves. They have repeated history from 2017. Chillier, what else is left to say?
Well, at the end of every OWC and every World Cup at that is always a solemn experience, because we have to begin a period of 12 months of waiting before the next one starts up again. Even with Laser Grand Arena being around for the standard community, it's always a sad day when OWC ends, but another joyous day for the players of Poland. Congratulations to the United States for their second place finish and a third place